where the wild winds run, where the skies stretch wide and kiss the sun. The sagebrush whispers, the rivers hum. This land's a story just begun. Wyoming calls, where the heart beats free. Mountains rise and dreams run deep. Past the borders, past the sign, there's a world alive beyond the fence line. Boots hit gravel and the prairie sings with every hoofbeat. The frontier rings from ranchers' hands to miners' veins. The spirit of the West remains. Wyoming calls, where the heart beats free. Mountains rise and dreams run deep. Past the borders, past the sign, there's a world alive beyond the fence line. So come ride with me through the dust and time. Find the soul of Wyoming beyond the fence line, beyond the fence beyond the fence line, beyond the fence beyond the fence line, where the wild winds run, where the skies stretch wide and kiss the sun.
Hi, hey, good morning, Wyoming, January 29th, Thursday. I'm going to talk about property rights, property taxes here in today's episode. Welcome. By the way, I'm Joseph Kibler, your candidate for Wyoming governor that's outside the echo chamber, running right now as an unaffiliated write-in. so that we can talk about the things that matter and not worry about what the party thinks. So here we are. This show will probably not be horribly long because I know where I stand on this stuff. It's pretty cut and dry, pretty easy. But I do want to unpack kind of what's going on in Wyoming in relation to these issues and what we should be looking for in the future when it comes to property rights, property taxes. Forgive me if I sound a little bit nasally, like a nasally elephant or something, a little sniffly. I've been trying to kick this cold for 2 weeks, and it is just still hanging on. So hopefully it'll go away. Maybe it's like COVID 6.0 or something. Who knows? I don't even know. But here I am. Great to be with you here today. So let's talk about property rights. It is my firm belief, my principle, that you should own everything on top of your land. You should own the dirt. You should own what's under the land. You know, we sell this American dream, this idea of ownership to all of us. We all, this is like sort of the core or the crux of the American dream, right, you guys? It really, really, truly is. Yet, is it really just a facade? And does government really have the ultimate control over our land? And the answer is yes. Yes, they do. So, what rights should you have when it comes to your land? Let me turn my notifications off on my phone. I also have screaming children upstairs. Not sure why, but hopefully you can't hear that. I'm going to silence my phone real quick. You should be able to do anything on your land that you want without a permission slip from government. Now you might go, oh, wait a minute, Joseph, what about woke wind? I will talk about woke wind in a minute because there's a caveat to this. It's your land. Do what you want. Thrive. Live on it. Now, when it comes to medium and heavy industrial and commercial applications that also likely are tied to government subsidies, right? Like woke wind, heavily subsidized by taxpayers. And it greatly affects things like property values, views, wildlife, environment, and all these kinds of things, right? This isn't just me building a little barn for my chickens outside, which, by the way, I plan to do, and I'm not going to ask permission. Yeah, they'll probably try to tax me on it. I'll get to that in a minute, too. Talk about taxes. But when you have something that's of significant environmental impact, significant impact to your neighbors, subsidized by our tax dollars, as woke wind is, solar in many cases, it needs to matter how that affects your neighbors, how that decision is made. You need to bring everybody over to your kitchen table and give them some coffee and a good breakfast. Have a conversation with them about that. See what you can do to find a way to perhaps get that done if you want to get that done. But we need to consider those things when it comes to property rights while leaving everybody else completely alone. But these other impacts matter. Somebody told me, well, gee, your property rights end where my property rights start. I don't agree with that. Unless in that criteria, right? Subsidized, medium heavy commercial industrial operations that have environmental impact. We need to have a neighborhood conversation about that. So there you go. Property rights. Do what you want most of the time. That's what we should be able to do. And I think the other part of the argument with the woke wind, stuff like that, I think it's a good one. I think those conversations have to happen. We have to decide whether that's something we're going to do or not. And by the way, this is not about wind. If you watch my show about energy, I talk about woke wind and solar and all these things in detail and where I stand on those things. So now let's talk about property taxes. So there are those currently running for governor who just sort of take this slashing and dashing approach to property taxes. Let's just get rid of it and see what the consequences are. Let's just, you name it. let's just cut it. Let's make it more complicated. Let's make 55 exceptions, and then let's throw in some other exemptions, and let's make more bureaucracy out of it. Right? Let's make more layers of bureaucracy out of property taxes. The core of my belief is this when it comes to property taxes, and this is where I stand on property taxes. First of all, I can agree in concept that we all want to see property taxes go away. I do. Hey, my family's property taxes, I mean, our mortgage has gone up almost $600 a month in the last few years. And the lion's share of that is property taxes. Some of that is insurance. But my family, we're figuring out, just like you are, how the heck are we going to pay our bills? With everything else, energy going up. I just got our gas bill, our natural gas bill. I don't know if you guys saw, natural gas is going up, skyrocketing right now. We just got our natural gas bill, and I was like, oh my gosh. That's like more than double what it was 3 or 4 years ago. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? So property taxes. I'll go back to, I agree in principle. Let's get rid of property taxes, because then we unleash that first thing I was talking about, property rights, property ownership. That American dream that really is, because of government, it's kind of a facade. But we can't undo a century plus of a system and a process that we have designed to operate by at the stroke of a pen in a year. So where do I differ from the slashing and gashing candidates? So let's just get rid of it, or let's just cut it this much and cut it that much, and let's make these exemptions. Here's where I stand. I want to see it go away, but I want to create a principled, multi-phase plan which will include our local leaders across the state to eliminate property taxes over time. We have to take that approach to it, multiple phases, in order to be responsible to our local folks, our local governments. I was a rural town firefighter for 20 years. I get it. I understand what you're saying. I also understand that government would tell me, hey, Joseph, you got a little money left in the bank this year. You need to make sure you spend it or you're going to lose it. So I understand the other side of that argument too. So what we have to do is multi-phased. And this is just kind of a viewpoint on where I would start with this. And I want to bring in stakeholders, community leaders. I know what, instead of, we're just going to do this in the Capitol and you guys can show up and say your piece, whatever, and we're still going to do it anyway, right? Because that's kind of been the modus operandi, if you will, for the last many years, both locally and on the state level. So let's start with phase one. Phase one is go back to assessed value. Guess what? Most of us could have afforded our property taxes when we bought our house. We could afford those property taxes. You bought your house 15 years ago, you could afford those property taxes. You bought your house 20 years ago, you could afford those property taxes, your assessed value when you bought your house. So phase one is going back to assessed value, period. Some might argue, well, it's not constitutional in the state of Wyoming to do that. Well, you know what? Let's work on the Constitution. Let's get it done so that we can go back to assessed value for everybody. Oh, Joseph, well, some properties, we don't have the records. Well, then you go back to the oldest record you have when Joseph owned that house 35 years ago. You go back to that oldest record and you make that tax rate be that. So you start with assessed value. You say, Joseph, okay. That kind of makes sense. But what about, because you're going to have a reduction in revenue if you do that, right? But what about our depressed counties, Joseph? There are going to still be, even if we go back to assessed value, yes. By the way, assessed value solves like 99% of the people problem, right? The personal problem that our residents have, that our great citizens of Wyoming have. By going back to assessed value, you solve like almost all of that. Overnight, boom, it's done. But now you have these counties who are going to have shortfalls. We need to require them to be more accountable to the way they're spending fund. Let's stop these multi-million-dollar pet projects that the community hasn't asked for. Let's cut out that waste. And then let's examine county by county, city by, let's examine where those needs are. And let's make sure that we take care of those needs in this interim period where we've rolled back to assessed values. Now that we have solved the 99% of our people problem, we can now focus on the complete elimination of property taxes by making a fiscal plan to do so. By pulling in potentially multiple revenue streams that could be stabilized to get rid of property taxes entirely. There's an idea. Let's just shift all property taxes over to sales tax. I'm sorry. That just moves the problem around, folks. That doesn't fix the problem. It just does not fix the problem. And here's what happens. Those who are struggling the most in our culture will be the ones that pay that price. That's just how it will work. You're moving one problem over to another place and not solving the problem. You're just moving it around so that we can say that we did something. And while I like consumption tax because it's choice based, right? Obviously, we don't tax a lot of necessities in this state. And consumption based tax is choice based. But you're looking at potentially having double digit sales tax in a lot of places in this state. That's going to cause a whole series of other problems and perhaps create further required welfare, because of those that are struggling in our culture will struggle even more moving that to sales tax. But I believe that we could come up with a creative plan to then completely replace property taxes. And it might take a minute or two, a year or two to do that before we can completely eliminate it. But the alternatives create more problems than they solve. And then now good. At least we're not out of a job because we got more problems to solve because we just created more problems. So let's do property taxes in a responsible way with an actual plan and a solution, not just a slashing gas approach to things. Let's let the community leaders gather. If I'm elected governor, I'm gonna bring all those community leaders. They don't have to come to the Capitol. It's 2026. I'm gonna bring all those community leaders into a Zoom room, and we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna make a plan to get this thing done. The alternative, what you hear from other candidates is, I've got the plan and we're gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. We're gonna do it through legislation, blah blah blah. And we're not going to have those conversations that we need to have. You know what? Those conversations need to happen outside of committee. Those conversations need to happen outside of legislature. Those conversations just need to happen like me and you, regular citizens. Let's figure this out. Let's come up with what are our ideas to do this. If you just get rid of it, transfer it to sales tax, or you just get rid of it and you do nothing, our depressed counties in this state are going to have a really hard time. So are we just going to backfill all that? Who wants to do that till the end of time, right? That's still taxpayers footing the bill in a lot of ways. So come up with a principled plan for property taxes. That's where I'm at on it, guys. If you have another idea, post it below because I'm listening to you. So this sums up property rights, property taxes. I'd love to hear what you think below. God bless you guys. Kind of a short show today. Take care. And I'm going to throw on a little music for you. I think I'm going to throw on, let's see. What are we going to play today? Let's throw on that Code of the West song. Love this song. This is just for you, Wyoming. Take care. And until next time, God bless. Oh, hey, just a quick thing. Forgot to tell you. Tomorrow, it's going to be me and my family. We're probably going to start at 7:30 tomorrow, not 6:30. And my family and I are going to get together. You're going to meet my family, and I'm going to tell you my story. You're just going to get my story. Where do I come from? How did I get here? Why are we doing this? You're just going to kind of get that. You're going to hear about my near-death experience that I've had, my service as a firefighter, the different, professional things I've done, owning businesses, things like that. And that's going to be really fun. Now, we'll go to the Code of the West. God bless you guys. Have a great day.
Sun comes up on a small town road, coffee in a thermos, steel-toe boots. You don't flinch when the wind blows cold. You just do what you're born to do. Calloused hands on a busted gate. You fix what's broke till it holds its weight. You don't cut corners, don't fake the shine. You see it through every single time. That's the code of the West. Stand tall, give your very best. Your word is the mark on your chest. You ride for your people, you don't forget. Some things you just can't buy, like a clean heart and a clear sky. Know where to draw that line. That's the code of the West. That's the way I ride. You shake a hand, that's an iron deal. Doesn't change with the way you feel. If you say you'll show, you'll be on time. Rain on the roof or a blue sky shine. You wear the name on your paycheck proud. Hold up the crew when the chips fall down. You don't brag big, you just get it done. Few words spoken, but you speak in tongues. That's the code of the West.